Okay, so imagine for a second that you are prepping for just a massive high-stakes meeting.
Oh, the kind that makes or breaks your whole quarter.
Exactly. Maybe even makes or breaks your career, right?
Yeah.
And you are stressed, you're racing against the clock,
Always.
and you have this gigantic, like, 50-page document of raw, unstructured notes just sitting on your screen.
Just a total wall of text.
Yeah, we're talking rough financial projections, unannounced strategic pivots, candid feedback on upcoming product launches, the
And
works.
really sensitive stuff.
Right. And you desperately need to distill this absolute chaotic mess into a tight 5-point summary for the executive board. And you have like 20 minutes.
Which is impossible to do manually.
Right. So you do what literally anyone operating under that kind of modern workplace pressure does. You copy the entire 50 pages, you open up a shiny new public AI assistant in your web browser.
I know where this is going.
Yeah, you paste the whole thing in and you hit enter. And boom, the summary is generated.
And it's probably really good too.
Oh, it's perfect. Perfectly formatted bullet points. You just saved yourself, I don't know, 3 hours of agonizing work.
But
Then, as you're reading those bullet points, your stomach just completely drops. A cold sweat breaks out.
yeah, the realization hits.
You realize you didn't just summarize your notes. You just handed over your company's most sensitive, confidential, strategic secrets to the entire internet.
A public model.
Exactly. Because you just trained a public AI on your company's private future.
It is, it is the ultimate modern workplace nightmare. And the scary part is it's playing out in cubicles and home offices thousands of times a day right now.
Thousands of times.
Yeah. The sheer panic of that realization, that irreversible moment where the data has just permanently left the building and entered a black box, that is exactly what has fundamentally broken the traditional corporate security model.
And that nightmare scenario is exactly why you are here with us today for this deep dive.
It's the core issue.
It really is. Today we're looking at a single, incredibly impactful source. It's an excerpt from the AI news briefing for August 4, 2026.
A really fascinating read.
Oh, absolutely. And our mission today is to unpack what this briefing reveals about a massive, just seismic shift in corporate technology. Because, we're finally moving way past the hype phase.
Right, the phase where everyone was just like mesmerized by the chatbot.
Exactly. We're past the point where the whole industry is just obsessing over picking the coolest, smartest AI model with the most parameters.
The shiny new toy syndrome.
Yeah, that's over. Instead, we are focusing on a critical new necessity that is actively reshaping enterprise architecture. And that is the enterprise control layer.
Which serves as this invisible underlying infrastructure. It's totally required to make all of this generative AI actually viable. And legal, honestly, in a corporate setting.
Yeah, legal's a big word there.
Huge. Because you simply cannot harness the massive productivity benefits of AI without first solving the security of the data that feeds into it. If the data isn't secure, the intelligence of the model is completely irrelevant.
That makes so much sense because for a long time, the corporate AI landscape has felt completely lawless, like the Wild West.
Just a total free-for-all.
Literally,
Yeah.
every department, every employee, just downloading whatever web app they want, plugging in whatever proprietary data they have and crossing their fingers.
Hoping for the best.
Right. But this August 4 briefing, it basically outlines the arrival of the sheriff.
Finally.
But before we analyze the specific technological solution that was launched on August 4, we have to look at the underlying pathology of the problem itself.
Yeah, we have to understand the disease before we look at the cure.
Exactly. And the briefing explicitly states that, quote, unapproved AI use is one of the largest practical barriers to enterprise deployment.
And, that phrase, unapproved AI use, that carries decades of baggage in the IT world.
Does it?
Oh, yeah. Because the barrier to widespread AI adoption isn't computational limits, right? Or a lack of use cases. People know what to use it for.
Right. We all want to use it.
Exactly. The barrier is the collision between human behavioral economics and extreme data vulnerability.
Behavioral economics.
Yeah.
Meaning like people just want to take the easiest path.
Precisely. At the end of the day, employees are rational actors trying to optimize their time. They just want to get the job done faster.
Yeah. If I have a tool sitting in a browser tab that can, I don't know, write a Python script or draft a press release in a tenth of the time, it would take me manually.
The incentive to use it is just overwhelming. It really is.
And a no-brainer.
Right. And the average employee, they are not sitting there thinking about data governance or compliance frameworks or, vector embeddings.
No, they're thinking about their 5.00 p.m. deadline.
Exactly. But The organization, the entity that is legally responsible for that data, they are paralyzed by the fear of leaks. So you have this dynamic where the organization needs to move with extreme caution, but the employee needs to move with maximum velocity.
Which creates this massive structural friction point.
A huge bottleneck.
Yeah, because the official IT department sends out an email like, "We are currently evaluating enterprise-grade AI platforms. Please hold for the next 6 to 8 months while we run security audits."
Classic IT memo.
Right. And the employee reads that and says, I have a presentation in 20 minutes. I'm just going to use this free tool I found on some tech blog.
Yeah. And in traditional enterprise technology, we call this shadow IT.
Shadow IT. Okay, explain that a bit more.
It's basically employees finding their own unauthorized workarounds to bypass official roadblocks. But the thing is, generative AI has mutated shadow IT into something far more dangerous than it used to be.
Mutated it how?
Well, in the past, shadow IT meant like an employee putting a company spreadsheet into a personal unapproved Dropbox account.
Okay, sure.
Which was bad, obviously, but the document was mostly just sitting there in storage.
All right, it's just a file in a folder.
Exactly. But when an employee pastes that exact same spreadsheet into an unapproved public generative AI, the data doesn't just sit there.
It gets absorbed.
Yes, it is actively digested. It becomes part of the training corpus. It actually informs future outputs for other people.
Wow. Okay, so using unapproved AI at work, it's a lot like bringing your own unregulated mystery ingredients into a commercial kitchen.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right. Like, it might make your job as a line cook a lot easier in the moment. It might even make the dish taste fantastic.
Sure.
But it is a massive health code violation just waiting to shut the entire restaurant down.
It absolutely is. Your restaurant analogy perfectly captures the liability.
Right.
But we have to scale the blast radius here.
Scale it. How so?
Well, if a rogue ingredient gives someone food poisoning, the restaurant faces a localized lawsuit, right?
Right. One bad review, one lawsuit.
But if an employee's unapproved AI tool absorbs a major client's private financial data and then regurgitates it to a competitor who happens to be probing that same public model,
Oh, man.
yeah, the enterprise faces catastrophic regulatory fines across multiple global jurisdictions. They face an irreversible loss of public trust and a devastating hit to their competitive advantage.
It's a total meltdown.
Exactly. The stakes aren't just a lawsuit. They are often existential to the business.
And for a long time, the default response from IT departments to these mystery ingredients was to just change the locks on the kitchen doors.
The sledgehammer approach.
Right, just hard block everything at the network firewall. If IT can't control the flow of data into a tool, they ban the domain entirely.
Yeah.
ChatGPT, blocked. Claude, blocked.
Yeah.
Gemini, blocked.
Just block it all. But the August 4 briefing introduces a completely different paradigm.
Right, and now that we've established the severity of unapproved AI, this whole terror of data leaks, we can look at the specific tool that was introduced to tear that barrier down.
Rather than just building the wall higher.
Exactly. Because, I mean, the sledgehammer approach has always been a temporary failing strategy, hasn't it?
Completely. I mean, if you block all AI access for your workforce, your employees immediately become less productive than your competitors' employees who have actually figured out how to use AI safely.
You essentially opt out of the innovation race.
You really do.
Yeah.
And furthermore, hard blocks just drive the behavior further underground.
Right. People find a way.
They always do.
Yeah.
Employees switch off the corporate VPN, they use their personal cell phones to run the prompts, and then they just email the results back to their work accounts.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. You lose even the illusion of visibility.
So according to the text, on August 4th, 2026, a major enterprise data security provider launched a new data loss prevention system, a DLP.
Yep, a modernized DLP.
And its core defined function is to control how employees share information with generative AI applications.
That's the sole focus.
And the briefing outlines that this platform does two fundamental things. First, it discovers both approved and unapproved AI services running on the network. And second, it identifies sensitive information before it leaves the organization.
And that temporal marker, the word before, that represents a monumental engineering leap.
Because it's proactive, not reactive.
Exactly. The holy grail of data security isn't running a post-mortem audit to find out you had a catastrophic leak 3 weeks ago.
By then, the damage is totally done.
It's over. The holy grail is catching the data mid-flight, intercepting the payload in the milliseconds between the user hitting enter and the data actually hitting the external server.
That is wild. The text notes that instead of the sledgehammer blocking all AI access, this system provides administrators with selective controls.
It operates like a scalpel.
A scalpel, exactly.
Yeah.
They can create highly specific, nuanced policies to manage this flow of data. But, okay, I have to push back here for a second.
Go for it.
Because if I put myself in the shoes of a chief information security officer, someone whose head is literally on the chopping block if a leak happens.
Which is a very stressful job.
Very. Isn't it just infinitely safer and easier to maintain the sledgehammer? Like, why would I take on the massive operational headache of managing millions of nuanced, selective policies across thousands of employees?
It's the classic dilemma between security and enablement. Yes, severing the fiber optic cable to the building is technically the most secure way to prevent a cyber attack.
Right. Can't get hacked if you aren't online.
But you no longer have a functioning business. The source provides the exact rationale for moving to the scalpel. It states that these selective controls allow, quote, approved AI workflows to continue while higher-risk transfers are blocked or reviewed.
Oh, I see.
And it specifically highlights that this architecture lets companies expand AI access without stopping legitimate experimentation.
Legitimate experimentation. That phrase really stands out to me because it implies that trial and error isn't just tolerated by the company, it's actually a required business process.
It is the only way a modern enterprise survives today.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. You need your logistics team experimenting with AI to optimize supply routes. You need your marketing team experimenting with AI for campaign generation.
And if you use the sledgehammer,
You kill all of that momentum dead in its tracks.
that makes total sense.
This new August 4 system, it fundamentally changes the posture of the IT department from being the department of no to the department of how.
The Department of How. I like that.
Yeah. It says, we will give you the absolute safety of the sledgehammer, but with the surgical precision to let the harmless, productive queries flow freely.
Okay, so understanding that the system acts as this surgical filter, we really need to examine the actual mechanics of the scalpel.
How it actually works under the hood.
Exactly. Like, how does it decide in real time what gets through and what gets blocked? And the briefing breaks down the anatomy of these security policies, detailing 4 specific pillars that administrators base their rules on.
The 4 pillars.
Yeah. The user, the application, the data classification, and the business purpose.
And these 4 pillars form the foundational logic of the entire new control layer.
Okay.
To truly grasp the sophistication of what was announced on August 4, we have to evaluate what each of these criteria actually requires technologically within a complex enterprise environment.
Let's do it. Let's start with the first pillar. The user. Contextual identity, basically. Who is sitting at the keyboard?
Precisely. Or rather, it goes much deeper than just knowing their name.
What do you mean?
Well, in any complex enterprise architecture, users are mapped to highly specific risk profiles and access tiers.
Okay, so like a hierarchy.
Yes. A policy based on the user means the DLP system is constantly querying the company's identity provider. It recognizes the vast contextual difference between, say, the global head of mergers and acquisitions and a first-year junior analyst.
Okay, so the system treats them differently.
Completely. The M&A executive might be explicitly authorized to run sensitive financial models through an approved sandboxed AI tool.
Because it's their job.
Exactly. But the junior analyst, however, might trigger an automatic hard block if they attempt to paste any numerical array into any AI platform, regardless of the destination.
Just a blanket block for them.
Right.
But identities are fluid, right? They're messy in the real world. You might have a senior engineer who just transferred off a highly classified project onto something less sensitive. The policy can't just be static.
And that is exactly why user-based policies tie into dynamic access control.
Dynamic, so they shift.
Right. Let's say an employee gives their notice and enters their 2-week offboarding period.
Oh, the riskiest time.
Extremely risky. Their risk profile instantly spikes. So the DLP policy can automatically shift their AI permissions from permissive to highly restricted without a human administrator lifting a finger.
Wow.
It evaluates the human context before the data even moves.
Which naturally leads into the second pillar,
Right.
the application. Because understanding who is sending the data is really only half the battle.
It is.
The system still has to figure out where that data is actually heading.
And this maps back to the text, highlighting the platform's ability to discover approved and unapproved AI services. The system evaluates the destination endpoint.
So it looks at the website they're on.
Yes, but we aren't just talking about differentiating between ChatGPT and like a random translation website.
Okay.
It's about evaluating the enterprise tier of the application itself.
What's the difference?
Well, is the employee trying to paste proprietary code into an enterprise licensed AI tool where the company has a massive, legally binding contract guaranteeing zero data retention for training?
Okay, so a safe environment.
Right. Or are they trying to paste that exact same code into the free consumer-facing version of that exact same tool where the terms of service explicitly state the data will be used for model training?
Ah, the mystery ingredient from the unapproved vendor.
Ex-
So the policy can dictate that moving a specific block of text to the corporate-approved instance of an app is totally seamless. But moving that identical block of text to the public instance of the app triggers a red alert.
You've got it. The destination determines the risk just as much as the content does.
Speaking of the content, that brings us to the third pillar, data classification.
The what?
Yes, the what. What is the actual substance of the payload being transferred? And honestly, this seems like it would be an absolute nightmare to police.
Oh, it traditionally has been.
Because if I'm an employee trying to get around a block, what if I just change the column headers on a sensitive spreadsheet? Or, like, what if I use internal slang for a secret project? How does the system catch that?
You've just hit on exactly why legacy data loss prevention systems completely failed in the AI era.
They couldn't keep up.
Not at all. Older systems relied heavily on regular expressions, basically simple pattern matching.
They're like looking for specific words.
Yeah, they would look for a string of 9 digits that resembled a social security number or specific keyword tags like the word confidential in all caps.
And if you just didn't type that?
If you changed the format or used slang, the old systems were blind. They had no idea.
Wow.
But this third pillar, data classification in this new system, requires massive computational lifting.
How does it work then?
The system actually has to use its own embedded machine learning to read, contextualize, and understand the semantic meaning of the content in milliseconds.
Oh, wow. So it has to actually understand the concept of what's being shared, not just match the exact text.
Exactly. It classifies the inherent risk level of the data itself. The policy allows the administrator to say, if this text conceptually outlines our Q4 pricing strategy, block it.
Regardless of how it's phrased.
Regardless of whether the employee disguised the terms, regardless of who is sending it, and regardless of where it's going.
Okay, that is incredibly powerful. And that brings us to the fourth pillar outlined in the briefing. And this one is fascinating to me because it steps away from pure technology and enters the realm of, like, psychology.
It really does.
The text mentions business purpose. And I'm just thinking, how on earth does a network security system evaluate why an employee is doing something?
It's a great question.
Like, does this imply every single prompt an employee types is being intercepted, held in a buffer, and audited for its ethical justification?
This is arguably the most radical shift introduced in this whole operating layer. The text explicitly states that policies can incorporate business purpose, and notes toward the end that companies require a layer determining how those decisions are audited.
Okay, audited.
Right. When you combine business purpose with auditing, you're moving beyond automated binary choices like just block or allow, and you're moving into human-in-the-loop accountability.
The friction of a pop-up window.
Exactly, the mechanism.
Yeah.
Yes. Imagine an employee attempts an action that falls into a gray area. They are trying to summarize a document that contains, say, low-level internal metrics, and they're sending it to an approved application.
So it's not obviously terrible.
Right. It's not a glaring violation, but it's not entirely risk-free either.
So what happens?
Instead of silently blocking it and frustrating the user, or silently allowing it and just accepting the risk, the system actually pauses the transfer.
It stops them.
Yep. A prompt appears directly on the user's screen. You are attempting to transfer internal metrics to an external generative AI model. Please provide your business purpose.
That is brilliant. It forces a moment of cognitive friction. It snaps the employee out of autopilot and forces them to consciously justify the action on the record.
And that justification is permanently logged. It becomes part of the cryptographic audit trail.
Wow.
If the employee types, summarizing historical data for the Q3 marketing retrospective, the system logs the user, the app, the data hash, and that stated purpose, and then it allows the transfer.
It creates a paper trail.
Exactly. The text's heavy emphasis on auditing means the security team now has a definitive paper trail of intent. If that data later turns up somewhere it shouldn't, the security team doesn't just know that the data moved.
They know why.
They know exactly why the user claimed it needed to move. It reintroduces human accountability into an otherwise highly automated workflow.
That is so smart. Okay, so an administrator builds a policy matrix based on those four interlocking pillars: identity context, destination risk, semantic data classification, and human justification.
Yep, that's the matrix.
But, I mean, a policy matrix is effectively useless if the system doesn't have the horsepower to actually read and enforce it across the entire sprawling digital footprint of a modern enterprise.
Oh, the scale is the hardest part.
Right. Which brings us to the sheer scale of the engineering challenge here. The August 4 briefing states that this system is designed to operate at, quote, petabyte scale.
And it is incredibly easy to just glaze over a term like petabyte scale as just another piece of vendor marketing jargon.
It sounds like a made-up sci-fi word.
It does. But we need to pause and truly understand the computational reality of what that represents.
Because we aren't just talking about storing a petabyte. I mean, storing data is cheap, right?
Yeah.
We are talking about actively scanning and processing it.
Exactly. Storing a petabyte of data is just buying enough server racks.
Right.
To give a sense of volume, a single petabyte of standard text is roughly equivalent to 500 billion pages.
500 billion pages.
Yes. If you printed that out and stacked it, the pile would reach hundreds of miles into the atmosphere.
That is insane.
It is. But as you said, the text isn't talking about cold storage. It is telling us that this system is capable of actively monitoring, discovering, categorizing, and enforcing dynamic policies across that unimaginably vast ocean of enterprise data in real time.
In real time.
Without introducing latency that breaks the user experience. The compute overhead required to run natural language processing inference across hundreds of billions of pages simultaneously is just staggering.
And the briefing gets even more specific. It notes that this petabyte scale monitoring must apply to both structured and unstructured data.
Crucial distinction.
Right, let's draw a hard line between those two because securing them seem like fundamentally different engineering problems.
They are completely different universes. Structured data is the historical comfort zone of IT security.
Okay, what does that look like?
It is highly organized, rigid, and predictable. Think of a massive SQL database or a heavily formatted enterprise resource planning system. It has defined rows and defined columns.
Very neat and tidy.
Very. The security system knows that Table 4, column C, exclusively contains employee social security numbers, and column D exclusively contains routing numbers.
So it's easy to protect.
Relatively straightforward, yes. Applying security policies to structured data works well because the data is perfectly labeled and lives in a predictable walled garden.
Okay, so it's kind of like guarding a meticulously organized library where every single book is barcoded and in its exact assigned spot. You know, instantly, if someone tries to walk out with a book from the restricted section.
That's a perfect analogy for structured data. Unstructured data, on the other hand, is absolute chaos.
Chaos.
Yes. Unstructured data is everything else that makes up the actual daily life of a company.
Like what?
It is the body text of 10 million emails. It is a casual late-night message sent over a corporate Slack channel. It is a rough draft of a document saved randomly to a desktop.
Oh, man.
It is the automated transcript of a 2-hour video conference call. It has no rows, no columns, no metadata tags, and absolutely no predictable format whatsoever.
It's just human beings communicating in messy, organic, unpredictable ways.
Exactly. And that is why unstructured data is the single greatest vulnerability when it comes to generative AI.
Because it's everywhere.
Because the sensitive information could be buried literally anywhere in that mess. A petabyte of unstructured data is a nightmare scenario for a security professional because you cannot rely on location to determine risk.
So finding a single leaked customer record in a petabyte of unstructured data in real time before an AI model absorbs it, that's like trying to identify and catch one specific toxic drop of water in a raging river before it goes over the waterfall.
It sounds impossible. And yet that is exactly the capability this system claims to have brought to market on August 4, to identify those specific drops of water in the chaos.
That is just mind-blowing.
It is. The text outlines that within this petabyte-scale ocean of structured and unstructured data, the system is specifically trained to recognize and isolate 5 core pillars of protected information.
Let's examine those 5 pillars because the source lists them very explicitly, and they represent the absolute critical assets of any modern business.
They are the crown jewels.
Right. So the first one listed is customer records.
Customer records represent the foundational trust of any enterprise. We are talking about personally identifiable information names, home addresses, purchase histories, behavioral profiles.
The really personal stuff.
Yeah. If an employee, just trying to be efficient, takes a raw list of 100,000 client names and pastes it into a public AI to format them into a neat table.
Which happens all the time.
All the time. And if that public AI uses that data for its next training run, you have instantly breached the trust of every single person on that list.
You've essentially just handed your customer base to a third party.
Exactly.
The second pillar the text identifies is intellectual property.
The secret sauce. This is the unique value proposition that separates a company from its competitors.
Like patents and stuff.
Yeah, it could be the chemical compound for a new pharmaceutical, the architectural blueprints for a next-generation microchip, or just the go-to-market strategy for an unannounced consumer product.
Oh, right. Strategic stuff.
The nightmare here is the boomerang effect.
The boomerang effect.
Yeah. If an employee's prompt leaks your IP into a massive language model, and then 6 months later a competitor asks that same model a related industry question,
Oh.
the AI might hallucinate or directly synthesize your secret sauce right back out to them.
Wow.
Your competitive advantage is dissolved globally, just like that.
That is genuinely terrifying.
Okay.
The third pillar protected by the system is financial documents.
And this goes far beyond standard bookkeeping. We're looking at unreleased quarterly earnings reports, highly confidential merger and acquisition targets, internal burn rates, board-level budget projections.
So the real market-moving data.
Exactly. The primary risk here isn't just a competitor seeing your numbers, it's severe market manipulation and insider trading.
Oh, so?
Well, if an analyst uses a web-based AI tool to summarize a draft of the Q4 earnings report 3 days before it goes public, that material, non-public information is now theoretically accessible outside the secure perimeter.
Which is highly illegal.
Highly.
Right. Okay, the fourth pillar is source code.
For technology companies, source code is literally the architecture of the product. And this is a massive friction point right now because software developers are power users of AI.
They use it for everything.
They constantly want to use AI to debug their work or write boilerplate code. So they paste a few hundred lines of proprietary, highly sensitive back-end architecture into a public AI chatbot and ask, hey, can you find the memory leak in this function?
Just trying to work faster.
Again, they're just trying to hit their sprint deadline, but they have just handed over the company's proprietary core logic to an external entity.
Which brings us to the fifth and final pillar of data this system is built to protect: regulated personal data.
This represents a massive escalation from just standard customer records. Regulated data is protected by strict, punitive government frameworks.
Like HIPAA.
Exactly. HIPAA in the United States healthcare sector covering intimate patient medical histories, or GDPR in Europe covering the stringent privacy rights of citizens.
So the stakes are way higher here.
Exponentially higher. Leaking regulated personal data into an AI model doesn't just result in bad PR or loss of trust. It results in immediate, crippling fines from government regulators.
And those fines could be massive.
Oh, they're often calculated as a percentage of a company's total global revenue.
Wow. Okay, so just to summarize, the sheer operational scope of this August 4 system,
Yeah.
it is simultaneously scanning billions of pages of chaotic, unstructured data.
Yes.
It's applying complex machine learning to identify those 5 specific pillars of critical information, and then evaluating identity, destination, and business purpose to intercept unauthorized transfers in milliseconds.
That's the whole package.
It is an astronomical undertaking.
It fundamentally rewrites the physics of enterprise security. It moves the perimeter from the traditional network firewall all the way down to the individual data payload itself.
Now that we've really broken down the technology, the scale, and the intricate policy engines, let's look at how the August 4 briefing says this massive infrastructure will actually be utilized day to day.
The practical application.
Exactly. Because the source material explicitly outlines 3 main use cases for this product.
Right.
The first use case is, quote, securing employee access to public AI assistance.
And this first use case maps directly onto everything we've just discussed regarding the external threat model. This is the modernized perimeter defense.
Keeping the bad stuff in.
Yeah, it operates on the realistic assumption that employees are going to use public external AI assistance no matter what policies you write.
People are gonna people.
Exactly. The goal of the system isn't to stop the usage entirely. The goal is to sanitize the interaction. It ensures that when employees interact with the outside world, they aren't carrying any of those 5 pillars of sensitive data with them.
That makes sense.
It is the digital equivalent of inspecting everyone's briefcase before they walk out of a highly classified facility.
I love that visual. But the second use case mentioned in the text completely flips that dynamic. The briefing states the product is also utilized for, quote, preparing corporate data for internal AI projects.
This is a profound pivot in the text, and it addresses a vulnerability that most companies are just completely blind to right now.
Really?
Oh, yeah. The first use case was about stopping data from leaking out. The second use case addresses the massive hidden dangers of bringing AI in.
Wait, okay. If a company builds its own private, isolated, internal AI model that just lives on its own servers, isn't it inherently safe? I mean, it's not talking to the public internet, right?
That is the most common and dangerous misconception in enterprise AI right now.
Okay, unpack that for me.
When a company builds an internal AI, say, a custom chatbot designed to help employees search through past projects or understand HR policies, that AI is useless unless it has access to the company's data.
Right, you have to feed it.
You have to point it at the company's internal data lakes and document repositories so it can index the information. This process is often called retrieval augmented generation, or RG.
Right, RH. You have to let the internal AI read all the internal files so it can actually answer questions about them.
Exactly. But remember that massive chaotic ocean of unstructured data we talked about earlier?
It's a swamp.
The swamp. If you just plug an internal AI directly into that swamp without filtering it first, you are engineering a catastrophic internal security disaster.
Oh, I see where this is going. If we plug an internal AI into our servers, doesn't that mean it basically bypasses all our legacy folder permissions? Like, if I ask it a question, it might pull from an executive's private drive.
You perfectly identified the vulnerability. Legacy access controls, like old Active Directory folder permissions, are a fragile, tangled mess in most organizations.
We really are.
Let's say, buried deep in some forgotten subfolder on a shared drive, there is a 10-year-old spreadsheet containing the salaries and bonus structures of every single employee in the company.
A total landmine.
Exactly. It's been sitting there for a decade. The original author left years ago. No one even remembers it exists. But the new internal AI model is commanded to index everything.
So it reads it.
It reads that file. Now, a curious junior employee logs into the shiny new internal AI and casually asks, hey, what is the average bonus for the executive team and who makes the highest salary at this company?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The AI just gives it to them, doesn't it?
The AI, which has been programmed to be as helpful and accurate as possible, searches its vector database, finds that forgotten spreadsheet, completely bypasses whatever flimsy, outdated folder permissions originally existed, and happily spits out a perfectly formatted table detailing the CEO's salary, the CFO's salary, and everyone else's compensation.
That is a nightmare. You haven't leaked data to the outside world, but you have caused a massive internal breach of confidentiality.
The tool that was supposed to make everyone productive just caused an HR apocalypse.
An HR apocalypse. So what this tells us is that the August 4 tool isn't just the shield pointing outward to block public AI, it's also an internal filtration system.
Yes.
It scrubs the internal swamp, locking down the sensitive data before the internal AI model is even allowed to ingest and index it.
That is precisely the function. Preparing corporate data means using the DLT system to scan all of that internal unstructured data, identify the sensitive IP, the financials, the regulated data, and quarantine it or apply strict access controls before the internal AI model is unleashed upon the data lake.
It ensures that the internal AI actually respects internal boundaries.
Exactly. It sanitizes the training data.
Okay, and then there's the third and final use case mentioned in the briefing, documenting compliance controls.
And this brings the entire conversation back to the legal and regulatory reality we talked about earlier.
Proving it all works.
Right. Because it is one thing for a company to issue a press release saying they take data privacy seriously. It is an entirely different thing to mathematically prove it to a hostile government auditor.
Which is what really matters.
Exactly. When the text mentions documenting compliance controls, it is referring to the system's ability to generate irrefutable cryptographic proof that the company is actively and successfully enforcing its policies.
It creates that unbroken paper trail.
Right. When regulators investigate a potential GDPR violation, for instance, and demand to know, how exactly are you preventing generative AI from absorbing European citizens' data?
The company doesn't just offer assurances.
No, they hand over the comprehensive audit logs, generated by this operating layer. It's definitive proof.
Which ties perfectly back into that business purpose auditing we discussed earlier. Every decision, every block, every human justification is recorded. It's a closed-loop system.
Exactly.
So having dissected the technology, the data pillars, and the use cases, we really need to pull back and look at the macro-level impact this August 4 announcement has on the broader tech ecosystem.
The big picture.
Right. The briefing ends with a definitive statement about the ultimate business implication of all this. It states that, quote, enterprise AI adoption is moving beyond model selection.
And if we synthesize all the technical details we've discussed today into a broader market perspective, this is the most profound structural insight in the entire text.
Really? Why is that so profound?
Well, for the last several years, the entire conversation, all the venture capital, all the media attention in the business world has been laser focused on an arms race of model selection.
Right. The endless debate of, do we deploy Model X because it has a trillion parameters and scores higher on standardized tests? Or do we use Model Y because it has lower latency and is cheaper to run?
Exactly. Everyone has been obsessed with finding the smartest brain.
But what the August 4 briefing is declaring is that the era of obsessing over the engine is ending.
It's over. The massive language models are rapidly becoming commoditized. They're all exceptionally capable now.
You can basically swap them out.
Exactly. The new frontier of enterprise AI, the place where the actual value and security lie, is not the engine itself. It is the chassis. It is the infrastructure that surrounds the engine.
And the briefing labels this surrounding infrastructure an operating layer. It argues that companies now require an operating layer that determines which data is permitted to enter an AI system, which specific applications employees are allowed to interface with, and how every single one of those decisions is audited.
This operating layer acts as the vital translation mechanism between the wild, unbounded potential of generative AI and the strict, unforgiving realities of corporate governance and compliance.
It's the bridge.
It is the infrastructure that makes artificial intelligence actually deployable in a legal framework. Because without a robust operating layer, the smartest AI model in the world isn't an asset. It is simply a massive, unquantifiable liability.
This flips the entire narrative of the AI boom on its head, though.
It does.
Are we saying that the real sustainable money and structural power in enterprise AI isn't going to the companies training the smartest, fastest AI models? The real power lies in being the bouncer at the door for those models.
That is exactly the market dynamic the text is highlighting. Owning the operating layer, being the bouncer, is where the ultimate structural power resides.
Wow.
AI models will constantly evolve. A company might use one model this year and swap it out for a cheaper, faster model next year. The intelligence is interchangeable.
But the security isn't.
Right. The operating layer, the security infrastructure that sits directly between the entire human workforce and whatever AI they happen to be using, that layer becomes permanent.
It gets entrenched.
It integrates into the identity providers, the data lakes, the endpoints. It becomes the single most deeply embedded, irreplaceable piece of software in the enterprise architecture.
And the briefing explicitly points out the massive, high-stakes competition this realization is creating across the tech sector. It notes that, quote, data security platforms, cloud providers, and enterprise software vendors are increasingly competing to become that control layer.
It has triggered a massive three-front war for dominance over the enterprise stack.
A three-front war.
Yes. And each of those three factions has a very compelling argument for why they should own the operating layer.
Okay, break it down for me.
Well, data security platforms argue they should own it because they have decades of legacy trust and the deepest technical expertise in intercepting data and stopping leaks.
Makes sense. It's their bread and butter.
Cloud providers argue they should own the operating layer because they possess the ultimate gravitational pull. The petabytes of corporate data already live on their servers, so the security should just happen at the compute level.
Also a strong point.
And enterprise software vendors, the companies making the word processors and chat apps, they argue they should own the layer because they own the actual user interface. They control the screen the employee is looking at when they type the prompt.
So everyone wants to be the bouncer because the bouncer controls the club.
That's exactly it, because whoever successfully establishes themselves as the dominant operating layer, whoever gets to set and enforce the policies for the user, application, data classification, and business purpose, they ultimately dictate the future flow of all work, data, and capital within the enterprise.
Man, this has been an incredibly dense and fascinating breakdown of a truly pivotal moment in tech.
It really is a turning point.
So let's distill all of this for you, the listener, summarizing the critical takeaways from this August 4, 2026 briefing. The core driving force reshaping enterprise technology right now is the realization that unapproved AI use everyday employees, just bypassing security to work faster, is the single biggest practical barrier to AI deployment because it introduces catastrophic risks of data leaks.
And we've seen that the traditional sledgehammer approach of simply blocking all AI domains is a totally failed strategy.
It just doesn't work.
No, it destroys productivity, it drives risky behavior underground, and it prevents the legitimate experimentation required to actually stay competitive.
Right. And the industry's solution to this paralysis is the rapid deployment of the enterprise control layer. Specifically, advanced data loss prevention systems, like the one launched on August 4.
The scalpel.
The scalpel. These systems abandon the sledgehammer for a scalpel. They offer petabyte-scale visibility, utilizing machine learning to scan massive oceans of chaotic, unstructured data in real time.
Which is an amazing feat of engineering.
It really is. They look for specific vulnerabilities, customer records, intellectual property, financials, source code, and regulated data. And they intercept unauthorized transfers based on highly contextual policies regarding the user, the app, and the business purpose.
And this infrastructure finally allows organizations to expand AI access safely.
Right, acting as a shield against public leaks and a filter to sanitize internal data before feeding corporate AI projects.
Ultimately, this signifies a massive paradigm shift. The tech industry's focus is aggressively rotating away from the commoditized race to build the smartest AI model, and pivoting toward the highly lucrative war to build the dominant operating layer that governs how those models are actually used in the real world.
So the next time you're sitting at your desk, rushing to meet a deadline, and you seamlessly copy a paragraph of text, paste it into an AI tool, and get your summary back without a security warning popping up, you now understand the staggering complexity of what just happened behind the scenes.
There's a lot going on back there.
There is a massive, invisible, petabyte-scale operating layer silently acting as a bouncer. In the fraction of a second, it audited your identity, evaluated the application's risk profile, scanned your text for those 5 pillars of sensitive data, determined your prompt was safe, and protected your company's proprietary secrets, all without interrupting your workflow.
It is a remarkable convergence of natural language processing, edge computing, and behavioral policy enforcement that has rapidly become the prerequisite for the modern workplace to function.
But I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. Something that wasn't explicitly debated in the briefing, but stems directly from the mechanical realities we've just unpacked today.
Oh, this is the big question.
It is. The source mentions that this new control layer empowers administrators to enforce policies based not just on the data, but on the user, and crucially, the business purpose. Furthermore, it notes how every one of these decisions is permanently audited.
Right.
Think about the long-term trajectory of that architecture, as this operating layer becomes the absolute, unavoidable standard in every single company. As it monitors every prompt you type, auditing every single piece of unstructured data you try to share, forcing you to constantly declare your intent, and algorithmically judging your business purpose in real time.
It's a lot of oversight.
How long until that AI security guard knows vastly more about the intimate details of your daily workflow, your unique problem-solving methods, and your actual raw thought process than you do yourself?
That's a chilling thought.
Where exactly is the line between a necessary system preventing corporate data leaks and the total frictionless surveillance of your legitimate experimentation?
That tension between security and surveillance is going to be the defining question of the control layer era.